Did you know that the CDC found that only 23.2% of American adults meet the physical activity guidelines? Well, this little workout program design will help you be able to create your own workouts and be able to establish some simple foundation to be able to get yourself out there and exercise. Being a student at Purdue and in their kinesiology program, exercise health is very important to me, and I can understand that any little bit counts, and it has a whole bunch of tremendous health benefits that it can do for you. So I hope that this gets you wanting to get anything a little bit of exercise in, and it helps you understand how to make your own little workouts if you're having trouble getting into the gym or not getting into the gym, but finding what to do when you're there. I'll be able to walk you through three simple components of setting up your own workout design. It's just a warm up, a exercise order of what to include in your exercises, and then a cool down procedure. Alright. So for warm up protocol, all you want to stick with is what's called dynamic stretches. It's not holding in your stretch like your typical like touching your toes. It's movements that you want to go through. So as you can see in this picture, squats, Frankenstein's, high knees, you're going through motions in these pictures to warm up your body. Now, when you're picking these specific dynamic stretches, you want to have one specific to the day's workout and the muscle groups that you're hitting for that day. So for a leg day, these are some great options to get your legs warmed up and get the blood flowing. Squats, Frankenstein's high knees. Squats is a great example of movement specific because if you're hitting squats for that day, it's not a bad idea to hit squats with no weights. That way you make sure you get through that range of motion and the blood's going to the exact muscles that you're going to be exercising that day. Now, when picking the amount of exercises, keep in mind the time frame. You don't want to spend anywhere like around 10 minutes should be the goal with your warm up. Don't spend too long doing a warm up, otherwise you start getting into fatigue and making it an actual workout. Next is going to be exercise order or organizing the routine. To do this, you have to incorporate specific exercises into your routine. You're always going to have a compound lift in your exercise routine. Your compound lift is going to be something like deadlift, pull-ups, bent over rows, squat, bench press, stuff like that. These are compound lifts because they're using multiple muscle groups. Like for example, bench, you're using chest, shoulders, and triceps to go through the lift. And then the majority of the actual weightlifting is going to be built up of isolation movements that you do after your compound lifts because you want to use the more strenuous ones and the more technical that you're using multiple muscle groups first. That way you aren't fatigued. So a couple isolation ones would be like a bicep curl or a lateral raise because you're only using one muscle group. Like when you bicep curl, you're only using those biceps. So you want to organize the exercises in the typical order of difficulty. So you want to start off with that compound lift and then go into a isolation movement and maybe another isolation movement. So you might have maybe one or two compound lifts and then 2 to 3 isolation lifts that you'll put after that. Then order isolation lifts depending on the difficulty of the isolation lift that you're hitting. And when picking out all these exercises, it's going to be daunting because there's plenty of exercises. To start off, find a few that you enjoy and keep using those. But as you get more advanced and want to spice up your workout, get a little more interesting with it, research, research, research. Don't try to just come up with a certain set that works for you just this one time and use it all the time. You're going to get bored of that. Don't be afraid to go research. I don't want you just sitting there and say, oh, I got this planned out for this week and I can use it for the rest of the year. Incorporate new exercises. I mean, you're going to be using your compound lifts all the time, but don't be afraid to go research. Use Google, use any websites that you find, use social media even to find workouts. Personal trainers, coaches, and everybody are using research to create their workouts. They aren't sticking with the same stuff. They don't know everything. There's too many exercises just to know off the top of your head. So don't be afraid to go out there and research. Your next component is going to be your cool down. Like I said in the beginning, we were using dynamic stretching before the workout, and now for the after the workout, you want to use static stretching. So those where you're holding that hamstring stretch, touching your toes, stuff like that, or overhead tricep extension where you're holding your triceps, stuff that you are holding. Cool down can also include movements like bike or running. but you do that at a much lower intensity, and it's more common to see that part of a cool down when you're doing a cardio workout. That way, it's just a lot less intensity just to recover your heart rate back down to where it should be. So the main key in cool down is low intensity. Now for amount of time in cooldown, it should be similar to a warm up, if not less. For a cardio cooldown, it's going to be longer than weightlifting cooldown. Weightlifting is mostly just going to be a couple static stretches that you're going to do. The static stretches are good to do because you already got the blood flowing and that you can get better range of motion. Here I attached a picture of the puppy pose, one of my favorites to do. It helps open up the shoulders and chest, and it's a relaxing, easy pose to do. None of the static stretching should be difficult. And then I actually have an example here. You can see in my warm-up that I included inchworms, plate raises, and bench press. So I picked these out because they're specific to the actual lifts that were happening that day. They're using chest and shoulders, so it goes back to that movement specific. Shouldn't be using too much time, maybe about 10 minutes on the warm-up. And then you can see the order of my actual exercises here. Start off with a compound lift, bench press, and then I go into 3 different isolation movements and put it in order of difficulty. And since I've been in the program a little longer, I kept in mind of where I was going to be at in a gym. So I was sticking with all the dumbbells, that way you aren't running around all over the place too. And then for the cool down, since it's just a weightlifting one, I just included static stretches. And yeah, I have 2 rounds, but you can honestly do 1 depending on the time. So these stretches are going to be just to get the range of motion and mobility work done. And with that, you got the simple foundation to be able to create a workout.